which we'll limit to 5 minutes of back and forth for each senator. Let me start with some nuts and bolts. You've been at the department for a while. You know how it works. We're coming to a transition point in federal education policy in a variety of ways. When we have a new law, that means that every state will need to submit a new plan to you in order to receive the Title I and Title II money. That's about $17.5 billion. The law requires that organizations work together, states, teachers, et cetera, and that you work with them. The conditional waivers that exist now are repealed on August 1 of this year. I would assume that we would hope that new state plans would be in place in time for the 2017-2018 school year, so I'm thinking that maybe plans would need to be in by the midsummer of next year. The plans have to go through a peer review. Over the weekend, I met with the governors and the teachers, all those people that I mentioned in my testimony are forming coalitions state by state to work together on their plans. So you have a lot of people affected here. We've got 100,000 public schools, 50 states, 3.5 million children, teachers, 50 million children. And the other thing to say about this that's good, I think, is that this is a good law. It has broad support. It lasts 4 years, but my guess is it may set federal education policy for a longer period of time than that. So we've got a new multi-year law. We're going to have new plans that won't have to be amended unless they're dramatic change. So we could be ushering in not only a new direction, but a new period of stability in federal education, elementary and secondary school policy, which I think teachers and principals and school boards would welcome. And because there's so many people working together to do this, it may help move, it won't entirely do it, move politics to the back burner and education to the front burner. So what can you tell all of these states, teachers, chief state school officers about the schedule? When will your regulations be final? When do the plans need to be submitted? What's the schedule you'll use to implement the new law?
Thanks for the question, Senator. So we believe it's very important that the process we follow in implementing the Every Student Succeeds Act builds on the notion that stakeholder feedback and input is critical. And so we've begun that process of gathering stakeholder feedback and input. We've held 2 public hearings. We published a notice in the Federal Register and received hundreds of comments from over 800 different individuals and organizations. We've held countless meetings with stakeholders, civil rights organizations, educators, community-based organizations as we gather input about implementation of the law. We are looking to understand from stakeholders, from schools and districts, what kinds of guidance and regulations they think would be necessary for strong implementation. We have begun the process of negotiated rulemaking with respect to assessments and supplement, not supplant, 2 areas where stakeholders asked us to provide more clarity. And we will continue to work to review that comment and to
well, if you were still in New York, what would be your goal to have a state plan in? When would you be? What would you be aiming at?
Yeah, we certainly have to have the plans in place, as you said, for the 17-18 school year. I think we want to make sure we have a deliberate process to provide guidance and regulations. And I think there's a real eagerness on the part of state chiefs to get started. As you indicated, many state chiefs are already beginning to consult with stakeholders and beginning to frame their plans.
Mm-hmm. We had we had a hearing earlier this week with a number of the chief state school officers, governors, et cetera, and they expressed both points of view, really. They wanted to get on with it, but they also wanted to take the time to get it right, which is a nice balance. Well, the only other thing I would say, and I'll have other questions as we get in, if we have time for a second round, but we'll be having a half dozen hearings this year on the implementation of the new law, because as I said, the law is not worth the paper it's printed on unless we implement it the way Congress wrote it. And oversight is an important part of our job as passing a law is. So my request of you is that if you're confirmed, will you be available to me and to Senator Murray and to other members of the committee and to our staff to promptly answer our questions as you go through this important period of time?
Absolutely. Look forward to collaborating on implementation.
Well, I personally will promise not to bother you with a lot of politically inspired long letters. But what I would like to do is that if I've got a question, I'd like to get an answer, and if we have a disagreement, I'd like to find a way to resolve it promptly. And I know that there are tens of thousands of people around the country who are affected by these plans, and they would have the same feeling. Senator Murray.